Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and oh boy, this is going to be a fun little video. So, as many of you may be aware, there's a bit of controversy and drama going on in the Final Fantasy XIV community now. Now, it's not about the data center travel not really being functional the day of it releasing, to no one's surprise really, and it's not about the PvP seasonal rewards being mixed up with season rewards or not being interesting enough to warrant going up in your ranks a second time. No. Something else happened on patch 6.18 day, and we're calling it the Billboard Incident. So to get all of you caught up, there are many venues throughout Final Fantasy XIV in the housing areas, basically locations that emulate things like a cafe, or in this case, a nightclub, where people can go to roleplay and fill out various, that's just what they do. They have fun with it. Now, one venue in particular, seemingly, and I still say that because I guess I can't really believe that it's happened, even though it seems very real at this point, rented actual billboards in a couple of different states to advertise for a little Saturday night shindig. Now, at first, the simple absurdity of this was largely being memed on, but it's quickly turned to concern over legal ramifications from Square Enix. It's also turned into a bit of a fear that contents of the billboard would lead to stricter guidelines on visual mods, something quite a few players utilize in various ways. Now, I'm going to provide some commentary on this, and we are going to be looking at those material usage rights again, but I need to make this abundantly clear. I am not a legal expert. Some statements I make here may simply be stated out of curiosity or wonder, but not out of legal precedence or intelligence. I'm hoping one of many other legal experts make a video on this. I tweeted at Legal Eagle, and there's tons of other ones that cover more directly gaming related content. So please, if they release a video on this, give it a watch because it should be an interesting one. Now, I'm sure you're wondering why we're even bothering to talk about this. It's something that honestly will pass and go like most other things in the 14 community. However, bits about this billboard are actually interesting because the first thing we have to look at are the material usage rights, something that content creators are frequently looking at and trying to adhere to. And honestly, looking at the billboard, a lot of the material usage rights are actually handled correctly. The only difference is a billboard being a physical medium, and yes, something that could potentially be misconstrued as an official event for Final Fantasy XIV versus a YouTube video where somebody's providing commentary or a guide. It's really just the little minute things that make the biggest difference here, but again, there's contents that are in and not in the billboard that lead to more concerns. So let's take a look at the material usage rights and see what they got right. Now, the material usage rights start by saying that any art, text, logos, videos, screenshots, images, sounds, music, or recordings from Final Fantasy XIV are the things that this license applies to. So yes, everything in there, it should be obvious, falls under this material usage license. Now, as for the general guidelines, the very first one mentions that you may not use materials for any sales or commercial use outside of specific partner programs such as YouTube or Twitch. That was actually added within about a week after the game came out back in 2013, whereas it used to be strictly against the terms of service. Now, it is worth mentioning that as far as I know, this nightclub does not have any monetary gain from this billboard. They actually just put it up and are not looking to get any commercial use out of it. Yes, does it advertise for an in-game venue? Sure, but as long as they don't accept any real money in any capacity, they're actually okay on this front, so they don't have to worry about that first bit. For the second bit, if you use a trademark such as Final Fantasy or related logo, then you must include a notice saying the mark is owned by Square Enix. Now, they have actually done that. In the bottom left of the billboard, they have the Final Fantasy XIV logo, and it does say Final Fantasy is a registered trademark of Square Enix Holdings Co. Ltd. So they're good on that front. Now, if they use any copyrighted material, such as screenshots or gameplay videos, and given that the billboard itself is a screenshot, then they must include the following notice: Square Enix Co. Ltd., all rights reserved. And that is also there in the bottom right side of the billboard. So far, they're actually looking okay on this front. Now, you may not sell the materials to third parties as original content. They haven't sold this, but they have rented out space. So I'm fairly certain that this is going to be okay, again, because there's no monetary or commercial gain for them. You may not use the materials to promote other commercial products. Again, they're not earning money, so I believe that that should be okay. You may not materially alter or modify the materials, except you may add your own voiceover, edit, combine, mashup, mix, or match the materials with other Final Fantasy XIV materials. Now, this is where they kind of get a little bit more into hot water, and only if you're someone who actually pays attention to this stuff. I would have never noticed if not for the glam aficionados really pointing things out. But it would appear that the screenshot is using mods or altered versions of certain outfits. One outfit in particular appears to not even officially be in the game yet. It's probably coming from an upcoming event. Most people would assume the summer event. And so the use of something that's data mined does actually come a little bit into play here, because that means they've altered their character to have access to an item that they shouldn't have access to. So of all the things that the Billboard has done wrong, that is the first thing, and it is something explicitly covered in the material usage rights, which means that any of the ramifications in the material usage rights could technically be levied specifically for this first bit. They may not alter, remove, or conceal any trademark or copyright notices. They have all the proper notices, so that should be okay, although the screenshot itself normally has one of those trademarks in the bottom right, but I think that it's the same text that they have, so it should be okay. You may not use any materials in conjunction with any of the following: unapproved Square Enix assets, counterfeit merchandise, pornography, unlicensed Square Enix music available for streaming or download, or links to unlicensed Square Enix music available for streaming or download. So this one is a little bit interesting. Unapproved Square Enix assets. So they have that third-party modded thing that would most likely be unapproved. They wouldn't approve of you using something that's been data mined. But then you have to question everything else on the billboard. Fortunately, most of it seems to be logos that are unique to the individual, such as the DJs or the nightclub, and don't actually seem to be reused Final Fantasy assets, unless it's just something here because the picture's kind of blurry, and I'm trying to do this real quick before I have to go do something else. Counterfeit merchandise, again, they're not selling anything. Now, pornography is actually somewhat of a concerning topic. Now, of all the things on the billboard up to this point, only the top, the modded top, has actually been something that breaks these material usage rights. However, it has been revealed that this club does indeed have 18 plus services associated with its account or with its venue, and that's not advertised anywhere on the billboard. So if someone were to, say, look at the billboard and then attend said event and find that these things were present at it, that could actually fall into a bit of a problem. Now, from what I understand, it is specifically a text-based service, an ERP service, if you will, that is only accepted for in-game currency GIL. Now, because of that, I'm not exactly sure what the ramifications are. And of course, I'd probably have to know more about Texas and California law, states where these billboards actually showed up, to understand what it means when you don't properly advertise 18 plus content. That being said, if the actual event doesn't have 18 plus content and all of the 18 plus content is actually scrubbed from all of their Discord, from their website, whatever, that may allow it to fall out of line with that. But again, that's why I would prefer to see someone with more professional expertise, as well as all the information that the community has gathered, to provide better commentary on this. They have more knowledge, they have more research, and I just think it would be a really good listen. Now, on top of that, at this last one, in relation to any functions within the game which allows you to perform virtual music instruments, this is not something we have to worry about. As far as I know, they actually have the DJs play music on Twitch channels and not in any way mod the game or anything in that capacity. And they also don't use virtual music instruments or performance actions. This is just saying, this entire section, that you can't use the performance feature to replicate music that does not belong to Final Fantasy XIV. So if people follow that anyway. And we don't need to care about guidelines for videos, musics, and sounds, specifically in the case of the billboard. And then the last section is just about takedown notices. So, just looking at the material usage rights, not looking at the user agreement or the legal notifications on the other side, it looks like they have 1, maybe 2 points against them, and it would be a fairly straightforward way to get them to take it down. Square Enix sends them a takedown notice, and if anything, they'd be in more hot water, potentially with the billboard company. Again, not sure how that stuff works. But at the end of the day, it came very close to following all of the material usage rights to the T. They had swapped out a couple of things in that picture, and it honestly might have just been perfectly okay. A little bit of a meme, because I think it's a bit extreme to put up a billboard, but otherwise not so bad. And again, people are wondering why this is an important topic, and it's because content creators essentially do a lot of the things that this billboard does, and myself included. We'll take patch notes, we'll take gameplay, we'll take screenshots, we'll take all these different assets that don't technically belong to us, and use them in order to produce content that we do receive monetary gain off of. We do actually earn commercial gains on the platforms that are approved. We are just making sure that it is on the approved platforms. Now, this also doesn't take into account Square Enix's general policies, which may be a bit conflicting or different from what we have in the official Final Fantasy XIV ones. They may see a billboard as a medium with which they do not approve of for content creation or for advertisement. They may have concerns that people think that the game is being advertised through this billboard and not a particular event within the game. So there are other things at play here. But at the end of the day, what does this likely mean for the rest of us playing Final Fantasy XIV? Well, much like the last event that we all made a big hubbub about, most likely nothing at all. They are unlikely to go back on policies where they have a policy against installing third-party programs that detect mods, essentially. It's a liability that they don't want to have to deal with, and on top of that, this isn't really any different than things they've given us warnings for in the past. They have given us verbal warnings, and please don't do that. Please don't do that in the past on live letters regarding modded characters and with much more explicit content at play. So I don't think this billboard thing is really going to matter at all. I think it's going to be fun to talk about for a couple days, maybe get a few copy pastas out of it, and at the end, we'll just be like, I can't even believe that just happened. So let me know what you think about it in the comment section of the video below. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and if there are any new developments in this, I'll be sure to bring them to you, and, well, hopefully they'll be just as interesting as this one was. Anyway, with that, I'll see you in the next one, and until then, take care.